Hello, welcome to the Cat Scrappiness channel. This is April with the design team, and I'm here to bring you a card using one of our new die sets called the Build a Cake die set. Gonna make this sweet congrats card. You can use it for several occasions. So we're gonna start with the Build a Cake die set, the Stitched Hearts cover plate, the congrats word with shadow dies, and the Be My Valentine cardstock pack, and the Ballerina pink solid round confetti sequins. Gonna start by grabbing that designer's paper there, and you can see it's well loved. I've used a lot of it for several different projects. I'm gonna grab this pretty pink plaid, and I'm gonna grab that Stitched Hearts cover plate and run it through my Gemini. You can barely see the stitched heart detail, but in real life, it is the perfect little detail to this background paper. So I've already pre-cut the pieces for the Build a Cake set. I did all the cake pieces in white glitter and all the bows in a pretty pink cardstock. So for me, for this set, it is easiest if I just put them all in order. So you can see me here. I'm sorting through the dies. I'm putting them exactly the way I need to put the cake together. I started with the bottom tier, the second tier of the cake, and now I'm putting those pieces for that top tier there. Just makes the cake go together super fast. I'm just going to grab a piece of white cardstock, and this is what we're going to assemble the cake on. And I'm doing this because I want to pop it up, and I saw this trick from somebody and it just works really well. So I'm using liquid adhesive, and I start off by not using enough of it because we are using glitter cardstock. And as we know, glitter cardstock can be hard to have adhesive take on. As pretty as it is, it can be a little temperamental that way. And so I'm going to I put that bottom piece on, and now I'm grabbing the round part of, this is actually the cake plate. And you could definitely have put this in a different color, but I just liked it all one color scheme. So now we're putting our first tier on, and I'm just making sure that it's even on both sides. That's really important with this. That way your cake doesn't start to lean. And so we put that first cake front on that first tier, and now we're going to put the bow right underneath it. So I'm just using my tweezers, tucking that up in there as well as I can and holding it in place. And this is when I realized, okay, I need to use a lot more glue because I am gluing it to glitter cardstock. So I put quite a bit more glue on. Now I can hold it into place. My suggestion is if you're going to put this cake together and the way it layers, I would do it in little sections. I would, in between each little section, I would give it a minute or two. I would just get up and go do something else while that glue set. But because I was filming, I didn't really have that option. So you will see I'm trying to be very careful, but I am putting something heavy, my acrylic block there on it in between each piece, and I'm being very gentle. So we're going to get that first little bow put into place and put that acrylic block on, and we're just going to work through each piece. So with each piece, we have our cake front, the bow, and then the top of the cake, and they go from small or large to smallest. The great thing about the way this cake goes together is you don't have to have a 3-tiered cake if you don't need a 3-tiered cake. Like when I pop this on right here, I think this is a perfect little cake for like maybe a little baby girl's birthday or even a baby shower. You know, you want to keep it simple, but you want a little cake with that sweet little bow detail. This is perfect. Or a birthday for anybody. So now we're going to start building our second layer, and this is where that cake front comes in two pieces for the second and third tiers. And the bow goes in between those two pieces of that cake front. So we're going to leave a little bit of room in between that bottom thin piece and this piece that I have right here. We're leaving just a little bit of room so we can pop that bow right into place. This is where I love the liquid adhesive. I can really wiggle things around, get it exactly where I want it to be so everything fits just so. So I'm grabbing that next little bow, being generous with my glue, you know, and these are very delicate little bows, but they look perfect on these little layers. So I'm just carefully putting that in there, wiggling it around, getting it where I need it to be, and again, putting something heavy on it to let it set. So I'm using my reverse tweezers from Scrappiness. I use these tweezers on every card I make, and I use them as an all-purpose tool versus just tweezers. I use them to hold all my little pieces like this to put glue on, but if you see, I'm also using them when they're closed to kind of wiggle things around and get things just where I want them to be. Instead of grabbing a craft pick or something, I just use them closed and they work just the same. I highly suggest you have multiple pairs of these tweezers. And I know I've said that before, but I really mean it. So now we're going to start putting this third tier into place. Again, I'm just moving at this pace because the glitter, everything just really wants to slide on that glitter. So we've got the bottom part of our cake front on there. Now we're putting the top half of our cake front on there. Again, leaving that little bit of space for our last bow detail. So when I look at this cake, I think, how many ways can I use it? You can use it for weddings, and that's what it was originally intended to, but bridal showers, baby showers, birthdays, anniversaries. So it's not just for wedding season. Can be used year round and for so many different occasions. So here you will really see me use those tweezers as this other tool. And the glue, you can see why I like the liquid glue, because it's allowing me, I was having a little bit of a hard time getting that one side of the bow to go right down in that little seam that I had created. But because I didn't have anything permanently stuck, I was able to get everything right where it's supposed to be. Gonna finish off this cake by putting the sweet little top on, and I think this cake is beautiful. I know it'll get lots of use for many, many years in my craft studio. So I do need to let this set, and I do need to give this some time to dry, because I'm going to cut this out so we can put it on our background. So while this is kind of sitting and drying, I'm going to carefully move it out of the way. I am going to grab my Congrats word with shadow dies. I'm going to cut the shadow out of just some white and the Congrats out of that same pink that I used for the pink bows on our cake. I am choosing not to stack my Congrats. The word part, I tend to do that a lot just for some dimension. But as you're going to see in a minute, I'm going to pop this Congrats up, and I'm also popping the cake up. I didn't think it needed any more dimension, and it looked fine just layered once right on the white shadow. So I'm just adding my liquid adhesive, and this, sometimes I find with word and shadow dies, sometimes the word gets stretched as we're working with it, running it through the die machine, taking it out of the die, putting glue on it. But this Congrats fit perfect in there. It did not budge when I was doing any of that stuff with it. And so it just went right on the shadow, just perfect. So I'm going to put something heavy on that and give that just a moment to set up. And then I'm going to grab some foam squares. I love foam squares, but you could use foam tape, whatever. And for the shadow, you could use a piece of fun foam too, if that's what you like for adhesive. But I tend to reach for my foam squares for these smaller things. I don't know. I really need to buy the smaller size of the foam squares. I ran out and I have a ton of this size. I just cut them in half or in fours if I need a smaller size. You will see I used a half one there. So I grabbed that plaid background paper that we had cut with the Stitched Hearts cover plate and going to take the release papers off of that Congrats. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to place that towards the bottom of my background panel there. Excuse me. And I really do wish you could see the detail in that. And none of the pictures gave it justice, but I really like it in real life. So, okay, I'm kind of testing to see if this is dry enough. Truly, I probably should have walked away, went and had lunch or something, came back and made sure it was really, really dry. I'm just going to be really careful and I'm going to cut around it. When I say I'm going to cut around it, I'm kind of cutting at a little bit of an angle so that when I'm cutting, I'm actually cutting underneath the image, but not the image. Because I use liquid glue, I didn't take that liquid glue all the way to the edges. So as you can see here, it allows my scissors to kind of slide behind the die cuts that are glued together there. And so I can cut at a little bit of an angle. So you never see this white cardstock that's behind it. All it is allowing all those pieces a base to adhere to so that I can pop it up. I saw this trick from another card maker. I think it's a great trick for these dies that don't have a solid base to build on. So I use this trick all the time and I love it. And so I could have probably used a little bit thinner piece of cardstock, but I just have a drawer full of scraps and just reached in and grabbed what was on top. But it would have been easier to cut out had it been a little bit thinner. But in the end, it doesn't matter. It just is a little bit more cumbersome to work with. You can also use just like printer paper, the really thin stuff works too. It doesn't have to be anything, just a solid piece. So right there, I was trying to show you there. You can see where it's cut away from those edges a little bit. Gonna grab those foam squares because they're sitting right on my desk. Truthfully, foam tape would have been easier and given me more coverage. I like to be generous with my foam squares or tape because I don't want to have anything crushed if I choose to mail a card. So once I have those on there, I'm going to take those release papers off. And this is my love-hate relationship with the foam squares, is I love them. They're super easy to work with, and the release papers come off really easy. But most of those release papers somehow miss going in my garbage can. So that makes me have to vacuum my craft room once a day when I'm done. So just using the plaid lines on our background paper there, that made it really easy to make sure our word and our cake were nice and lined up. And we're almost done. I'm going to mount this to a top folding card base. I'm just using my liquid glue to mount it. And I'm generous with my liquid glue so that my card base does not pop off. So we're going to glue this on there, and because we have so much dimension on there, if you just put acrylic blocks on there, sometimes the corners don't adhere to the card base, so you can see me just pressing it and holding it and making sure all the corners of that background paper get adhered, and so it can set up and it will dry and everything's adhered flat. I'm grabbing my next favorite tool from Cat Scrappiness, which is the embellishment tray, and pouring in the Ballerina pink solid round confetti sequins there. I love the size of this little tray, and I love that it has a funnel. The size allows you to sort through your embellishments and pick out sizes that you want to pick out, or colors if it's a mixed color pack of embellishments. But I'm just using 3 of these sweet little pink flat confettis and putting them just to add just a little bit of shine and a little bit of interest, but I really want that cake to be the star. And see, you just take off the top of that, open up your package there, and it makes it so easy to put embellishments back into the smallest of containers, and they don't go flying everywhere. So I'll put those aside. Make sure to always put that lid back in on it so it works the way you want it to. And move a couple things out of my way. And this is the card. Again, I think this is such a sweet card. You can definitely use this for a baby shower, a bridal shower, or a wedding. You can stamp whatever you want on the inside of it to make it geared towards whatever you're going to use it. I hope you check out in the description below where you can buy everything I used today. And please make sure to give our channel a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Bye.